Professor Russell Smith, you are Director of the Centre for Entrepreneurship and Business Incubation at the University of Malta. Intellectual property seems to be very important to business. Could you just describe what people mean when they talk about intellectual property?
Yes, certainly. I think in particular there's a focus on patents, and so we must be clear that intellectual property is much more than simply the patent opportunity. Now, intellectual property relates to original works, original thinking, research. It could be, for example, an artistic work, it could be a piece of writing, a play, or a tune, and that would fall under copyright, which arises when the author creates the work. It could be a particular logo or phrase or design that's associated with a product, for example, Big Mac for McDonald's hamburgers, and that's protected by a trademark, so that anybody using that trademark would be pretending that their product was made by McDonald's, and so you're not allowed to do that. That's called passing off. There's a third type called design right, which relates to the shape of a product. Perhaps the most famous is the shape of a Coca-Cola bottle, a very distinctive shape. And then we come back to patents, which is really very, very specific, and that relates to a new idea, a new concept that's never been done before, never been published before, so it's got to be kept secret until you have approval from the authorities to grant you a patent. And what that means is you have 20 years with which to commercialize that idea. Finally, there's know-how, and this is perhaps the most important aspect of intellectual property. It's things that you know and things that you keep secret. So going back to Coca-Cola, it could be that they keep the recipe for the drink secret, and provided nobody else knows how to make it, that's very valuable.
Okay, so how would I protect my property, my intellectual property in a business?
Well, the first step, of course, is to identify it, to actually be clear about what it is that you and your business own. Whether that relates to a process, it might relate to an invention, it might relate to an improvement, it might relate to a document. You've got to be clear about what it is that you own. Most people forget about their know-how as being very important. So the starting point is keep everything secret. Find out exactly what it is that you've got, identify that, be clear, and then if you have to talk about things, make sure that you do so, if it's to other parties, under what's called a confidential disclosure agreement. Now, your solicitor will be able to help you with that if you don't know what that means. Essentially, we're saying don't put anything into the public domain, don't say anything in public, don't put anything onto the internet, don't write about what you've got, unless your advisors tell you it's okay to do so. So you really need to take legal advice if you have something that you believe to be a valuable bit of intellectual property.
What about my employees? They know a lot about my business. How do I protect myself in that case?
In part, they'll be bound to confidentiality by virtue of having an agreement with you. Their contract of employment normally would include a clause, but the normal practice in law, the normal standard, is that they need to make sure that they protect the business that they're working from. Of course, they can make errors by mistake and talk about things by mistake, so you have to make sure that they're well trained, that they understand what they can talk about in public and what they have to keep secret.
Professor Smith, thank you very much.
Thank you.